All right, today we're going to make latex ears. I've gotten a lot of comments on people wanting to do them. I know you can buy them online. They are very generic looking. This way you'll be able to make your own and make them any style you want, make them fun, big, small. And we're going to use some basic materials. First of all, we're going to take the casting you made of an ear. Now this is just when you make the mold, the original mold of the ear, you make it like this and eventually you put it in, set it into a larger mold so it's easier to work with. But we're going to just work with the basic simple ear. I flattened it out a little bit so we could do it. And also, I'm showing you some different materials here, mostly used in the makeup effects industry. Like this is Ultracal. It's a very hard and very good for keeping details. This is called Hydrocal. And Hydrocal is also used in the makeup industry. It's also used for making molds for latex masks. This is Hydrocal. This I found at Hobby Lobby, and Hobby Lobby is, for those that don't live in the United States, it's a craft store. I looked for plaster of Paris and I couldn't find it, but I found another one called Perfect Cast. And so I brought it home and I poured some, and it actually is probably the same as Hydrocal actually. It's very strong, it's real durable. And I found online on Amazon, you can actually buy Hydrocal for basically the same price as this Perfect Cast. There's different types of clays you can get out there. You can actually use Sculpey if you want, Sculpey clay if you want, or you can actually use plasticina, which is very popular anywhere you can get it. I wouldn't recommend a water-based clay because it dries out really quick and you won't get really nice edges if you want to let it sit and work on it, you know, patiently and slowly and do really nice ears. I drew my line so I know exactly where my ears line up so that when I'm sculpting them together, I make this ear look like this ear. So I still recommend doing that. I do have a video on how to sculpt ears. Go look for that. I have a video also on how to cast ears. Look for that one. You will be able to do everything right there. I'm not going to show you in this video. So today we're going to take this clay ear and we're going to mold it. And we're going to make a latex ear, but we're not going to make a negative mold. We're going to make the latex off this ear. So now we're going to make a mold of this ear out of alginate. If you want to skip that step, you can. You can go right to the latex section of this and just, instead of using the plaster ear we're going to make, you can actually do latex right on top of this if you want. The only problem is when you peel the latex off, you may destroy your ear. And if you make a plaster ear, just like this is what we're going to do right now, then you can make multiple castings and make as many ears as you want. So to make a plaster ear, we're going to cast this, like I said, in alginate. And I'm just using a dental type alginate. It's kind of easy to find. You can find it on Amazon. Just look for dental alginate. Okay, I took the ear, I took a little bit of hot glue and I press it in the bottom of the ear so that I can stick the ear in this paper plate. You can use whatever you want for a mold, just make sure it's pretty sturdy. I'm going to first take a little bit of petroleum jelly and I'm going to coat the plaster. The reason is plaster, sometimes it can be porous and it will be hard to get the alginate off of it. And not too hard, but it does kind of make it a little bit difficult. I'm not going to put any petroleum on the clay though. I'm just putting it on the ear just so I can make it a little easier to remove. All right. Now we're going to mix our alginate. There's prosthetic grade alginates. If you want to get fancy, you can use those too. I just find this is easier, more accessible for most people, especially myself. And sometimes even you can purchase them from dentists. When I first started years ago, I got my alginate from our family dentist. He would sell me a bag every once in a while. All right, so I'm going to pour in my water. It's usually a 2-to-1 mixture. If you have a mold around it like I do, you can make it kind of runny, which is good because you can actually make it flow around the ear much better. So just mix it. Remember, the warmer the water, the quicker it sets, so be conscious of that. Alginate does set pretty quick with warmer water. And like I say, I'm making mine kind of runny. I want to get it in that mold and get it around. So I'm pouring it in now. And as you can see, I'm just kind of pouring it in, letting it flow around the ear a little bit, and I'll help it too. I can feel that it might start setting really quick here, so I'm going to work kind of quick to get it around the ear, underneath the ear, and on top of the ear. And the more you just try not to hit your ear, because you will dent the clay, but we will also be repairing it as we go. So once we make the plaster ear, we can actually repair it before we start using it for our latex. I'm just scooping the alginate up on top of it. It's going to start setting here in a minute, and I just want to make sure that I've got the ear very well covered. And using a mold box of some sort will keep your mess to a minimum. If you just put it on a table and cast it, it'll get a little messy, but you'll get the job done. I can feel it starting to set. I can see it kind of beading up a little bit. I just want to make sure that I got real good coverage on the ear. It's setting already. There, you can see how quick that was, how quick it set. Now I'm going to just let it sit for another couple minutes before I pull the ear out. And I feel like I got pretty good coverage on the ear. It's a little messy. I could have taken the alginate, made a whole bunch of it, filled it to the top, and not worry about, making this kind of a mess. But to me, I still got the ear covered. I used minimal amount of alginate. And I think I got a pretty good ear up from it. Well, I'm going to find out. Take this mold apart. My ear was stuck to the bottom. It popped off just fine. So if I flip it over, there is my ear underneath there. So now the trick is to get this out without damaging my alginate mold. So first of all, I'm going to trim it up a little bit. I always like a clean mold, even if it's a throwaway mold. Okay. Now, I need to figure out where the edges of my mold is, because as you can see, the mold, the alginate went underneath the mold a little bit, but that's okay. I'm slowly peeling it away. And I got to remember, my pointed ear is up here, so I want to be careful how I take it apart. Just got to be careful. Some of the alginate will break, and that means that your mold is going to be a little different. It's going to have some damage, but it's okay. Our goal is to just try and get a good ear out of this. And if you do a good job, this you can reuse. You can pour another plaster ear. You can pour several plaster ears before it starts to shrink too much. So that's the goal, is to get this out of here without too much damage. And if you damage your clay, like I just got it out without the clay. So now I got the ear off, as you can see, but now I need to get the clay out. This is a little bit gentle. This is a little difficult, but it can be done. Sometimes you have to split your mold a little bit just to get it out. As you can see, there's a little tear right here. So that is just part of trying to get the ear out. I split the mold, and then I got the ear out. Now I can set this back together, and I can do my plaster pour on it now. So let's do that right now. All right, now we're going to make plaster ear from this ear, and we're first going to repair this tear that we did. Now I'd like to tear more than cut when I do this, because it's it kind of makes it into a key more. When you cut, you could actually bend it and do more damage on the inside. So doing it this way, it actually leaves it more of a cleaner tear. And I'm just going to take a rubber band or two and just pinch it together like that. Okay? And that will keep it together nice and easy, nice and clean. Now to hold this nice and flat, I'm going to take a shop rag. You know, this is just stuff I buy at like Home Depot or Lowe's, you know. And I'm just going to set it on a cloth. You can use any cloth, it doesn't matter. I just got a little towel there. And so now the mold is nice and flat and even. And so we're going to go ahead and pour our plaster to make a plaster ear now. Hydrocal plaster. And we're just going to mix a little bit up in a cup with some water. I show how to do this on some other videos. So I take a little bit of plaster, a little bit of water, and I pour it together. I always pour the plaster into the water, and you mix it and add more as you go. So you mix a little bit in and just keep going until it's a nice creamy mixture. I like to mix it into a consistency of like thick pancake batter. Just mix a little here and there. And if you add too much and it gets too thick, throw a little water in it, just a little bit. Remember, a little bit of water goes a long way with this stuff. So that's a pretty good mixture. And now I'm going to pour it into the ear. I'm just pouring on one side and letting it fill up gently. Shake it a little bit, make sure you don't have any air bubbles. And just make sure it's even because I'm going to fill it all the way up. Okay, now I'm going to let this sit, let the plaster cure, and when it gets hard, we'll come back and we'll pull it out. Okay, the mold looks pretty good. It's pretty dry. When I scratch my finger on it, I don't see anything, so that means it's pretty well set. I'm going to slowly pull the ear apart. Slowly pulling the mold apart. I want to try my best not to damage this mold, mainly because I'm going to see if I can get a second pour out of it. So I'm just slowly pulling it away. Hopefully it'll come out. If not, at least I'll have one good cast. All right, well, I got a good cast. This piece was inside here and it fell out, so I don't think I'm going to get another good one. You can see some air bubbles. We're going to take those air bubbles and we're going to clean everything out and make it look good. And you can see there's my line from the tear, you know, this tear here, and we'll clean all that up too. But that is a really decent ear casting. And we're going to take this as a sheetrock rasp, they call it, for cleaning sheetrock. I use it for plaster. You can take it and clean your whole edge up. Really nice. Careful not to hit your pointed ear. Just go ahead and clean it up. Then it'll look like a really nice ear cast. There we go. Now I'm going to take and slowly dig this air bubble out right here, and then there's another one here. So try and stay within the contour of your sculpt and slowly dig it out. The plaster is a little bit soft. I didn't take it out when it was totally hard. I could still see a little bit of my finger marking there, but it's still in good shape. And whatever damage you do to it, we can fix it. So I'm just slowly scraping out that little air bubble there. Okay, and then go ahead and I'll try and hit that one right there. Some of them pop off pretty good, pretty easy, like that. There we go. It looks like a pretty good mold. Now the back, as you can see that line right there, Just gonna go ahead and shave it off. Whatever flaws you do have isn't really gonna show up on your latex because we're actually gonna put latex on top of this, is what we're gonna do. That's how we're gonna make our ears. We're not gonna make a negative mold. We're actually using this positive to make ourselves a latex ear. So I'm still just cleaning up the ear, trying to get all of my seam lines away, like that. It looks like I could take a little bit out of here. And it's relatively a good looking ear. There's not a lot of stuff to fix. And sometimes when you do a casting like this, you're going to have air bubbles. You know, like a big air bubble here or something. So what I'm going to do is, just to show you how to repair it, I'm going to go ahead and make an air bubble. Okay? Here's a big air bubble in my ear. I'm going to fix that right now. Okay, now we're going to do some repairs. Remember, I put a notch here. We're going to pretend that's an air bubble. Even professionals get air bubbles in their castings, so they know how to repair them also. Now I'm going to mix up some plaster because we're going to use it to repair this ear. I take and I dip my brush in some water, just a regular brush. Disposable brushes work, you know, just make sure it's a clean brush, no chemicals in it or paint. And I'm going to go ahead and take some plaster, touch it on that. What happens is, I don't know if you see that, it's sunk in. The water absorbs back into the plaster. So what I'm doing is I'm just filling that up with plaster and letting it fill in. And then I'm going to actually smear some underneath here too, where I repaired it so it's kind of clean. And the plaster is still wet, so it's actually easy to manipulate. I just dip my brush so that I can take the water now and smear that out and smear it around. And then you're pretty much, that little notch you had disappears. And then what I'll do is I will take and add a little bit more plaster to it if I see that it's still indented a little bit. Let it fill in. Clean my brush off. Remember, you don't want to keep plaster in your brushes too long. They will actually harden and then your brush is worthless. Okay, clean my brush. I'm going to let that sit. I see that I have a little bit of plaster right there that I took away. Make it look nice. And clean off that a little bit, and it pretty much disappeared. So now I have a good ear again. Look around. I'm going to see if there's anything else I can fill in. Looks pretty good. There's a little tiny air bubble right there. I'll go ahead and fill that in. And now I have an ear that I can actually make a latex ear off of. This is the ear we just casted and made, and this is the original ear that was inside with the clay on top, just to show you a difference. This is hydrocal, and this is ultracal plaster.